If you've ever had someone electronically pirate your tax return, you know what a hassle that can be to get straightened out.
And it may be happening more often than you think. Representative Lyndon Carlson sits down with Mike Johnson to explain what he's trying to do about it.
We've had testimony and a request for appropriations from the Department of Revenue because people have been breaking in and pirating, if you will, other people's tax returns. And so that's turned out to be a major issue. The Department of Revenue says that frequently they pick up on the fact that people are trying to break into the system. Somehow they get a hold of people's Social Security numbers and so on, and then they try to get refunds that they're not entitled to.
And trying to make the system more secure, well, it's going to take some money.
Yeah, and that's an appropriation request that the Department of Revenue has, but it's not limited to the Department of Revenue. It's across state government. I happen to hear most about the Department of Revenue because I happen to serve on the tax committee.
The February financial forecast is coming out soon. How will that affect? I imagine it'll affect what you guys do right away as far as looking at spending and or raising more money.
Yes, second year of the biennium, we have the question of a supplemental appropriations bill, and what that forecast does is it tells us how much money we may or may not have available. Now, the last forecast was in November, and we had a shortfall, and a good example of that was the CHIP program, which is the Children's Health Care, which is a federally funded program, but the feds had not yet passed the appropriation. So that had to be built into our forecast, and that created, under our forecast, a $175 million problem. Fortunately, since then, the feds have passed legislation and it's now funded. So a big problem we had in November has been resolved as we move into the next legislative session.
Two local issues. One is the New Hope pool, the new 50-meter pool that they would like to build there, and flood control in Golden Valley.
Yes, and this is an area on Lower Winnetka Avenue, Medicine Lake Road area that impacts on the cities of Crystal, New Hope, and Golden Valley. We call it the DeCola Ponds, and fortunately the governor put in his recommendations enough money where if the legislature fortunately would go along with the governor's recommendation, it would cover the DeCola Ponds. And we have a couple of other local projects that are of interest. North Hennepin Community College will be getting, if again we go with the governor's numbers and his recommendations, over $1 million in what we call HEAPR, what most people would call repair and betterment of their buildings and so on.